Well, my mom's birthday is on September 8th, and it was actually like, I think that year may have been like the U of M state game, maybe. I don't remember. But I remember like all of us were watching the game, and my dad went out to start mowing the lawn. And I was in the TV room with my mom, and she just started convulsing. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. So I ran out to get my dad. And then she stopped, so we called the ambulance, and she had actually had a grand mal seizure on the floor of our house. So from there, they took her to the hospital. We lived just outside of Alma at the time, so they took her to the Alma hospital. She had CAT scans, MRIs, all of that stuff, and then that night, they immediately took her to St. Mary's, which is in Saginaw, which is a top-notch hospital. So September 11th, I was sitting in the waiting room. That's when the earliest they could get her in for surgery. Sitting in the waiting room, my dad was outside the waiting room talking to the pastor of our church at the time, and I can't remember if it was either MSNBC or CNN that was on the TV. And I remember looking up, and the first plane smashed into the World Trade Center. And I ran out, and I was like, Dad, a plane it just smashed into the side of the building. And he was like, what are you talking about? And he comes in, and we were sitting there. I was sitting, he was standing, and we were watching it. And at the time, he had a job here in Mount Pleasant, and it was with restaurant stuff. So every year, the National Restaurant Association holds conferences in New York. So I had been 4, 5, 6 times, and I had actually been inside the World Trade Center, so it was kind of like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. And I'm 10, my mom's in the OR. It was... Because I wasn't in school at the time, I could watch it on the national news, and at first they thought that it was a small plane, they didn't know what happened, maybe it was communication failure, and then everything else came out, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm in 5th grade, I don't know what's going on. I specifically remember when my mom came out of surgery, they had the TVs on in the recovery room, and she was like trying to get information from my dad, like what's happening, what's going on, what is going on. Yeah, so.
So more confusion, less fear and paranoia.
Yeah, and then I remember just constant coverage on the hospital TVs for weeks on end. I don't necessarily remember conversations, but I remember people rushing to phones, like rushing to the pay phones, on the phones at the desks, people taking out their behemoth cell phones that everyone had at the time, but I don't remember necessarily specific conversations. All day.
All day?
All day.
So you're there up through the evening?
Mm-hmm.
Through the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And the atmosphere and the scenarios and seeing people rushing to the cell phones, did that change at all throughout the day?
Not really.
Not really? Mm-mm. So it was a constant state of confusion, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Is that how you describe it, or what other sorts of words come to mind?
It was pretty much constant confusion. Yeah. I went back to school, I think it was the next week.
The next week?
Yeah. Was it a Thursday, or I don't remember.
It was a Tuesday.
Was it a Tuesday? So, yeah, I must have gone back to school later that week. Later that week. And that's when I found out that, like, kids at school, they didn't get to see it happen, like, on national TV, national news, like I did. There were teachers that would come in and whisper to our classroom what had happened, and then they had to, like, figure out how to disseminate the information to, like, all the other students. And then if I remember right, by the end of the day, they had just turned the TVs on. People were talking about it, and my school had Channel 1 at the time, so all that information was, we'd watch Channel 1 in the morning. And watch that happen. Because we were so young, it kind of got to the point where people just didn't really know what was going on or what was happening. Our teachers kind of tried to keep it out of the classroom, just for learning purposes, education purposes. We talked about it in the morning, like with current events and stuff, but they just kind of wanted it to fade into the background to not affect us too much, I think. It's a constant, I mean, obviously September 11th is forever in everyone's memory, but I feel like it's even more so in mine because whenever it comes up, it's just a constant reminder of like, oh, 10 years ago my mom had brain surgery. 8 years ago, she constantly, every year.
Of how you
Almost
went out.
immediately because of what it was tied to with my family and my mom and all that stuff, so, yeah.
React.
I think I don't want to say I'd be more mature than other people, but I think because of what happened when I was so little, that, and obviously we're in college now, so we're taught to think about things. We're taught to separate them from emotions, but I think I'd be able to take it very maturely. I was 3 when I got her. So she's been everywhere with me, out of the country, vacations, everything, and I brought it with me to the hospital that day. Well, because I have a younger sister, she's 9 years younger than I am, and my mom was an RN, so she was extremely smart. She got her nursing degree from U of M, and to just have that rock a family, like I needed the support that she gave.
So do you have a name for your stuffed animal?
Yeah, it's Gray Fluffy. I was 3, so.
That's really good. You brought her to college?
Mm-hmm.
You take her, when you go on vacations, do you take her with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sleep with her every night. Just don't forget it.